Serie A last season proved to be one of the most entertaining leagues to watch, with AC Milan winning their first title in 11 years. And this upcoming season looks even more interesting with no clear favorite to win the title. So today I'm going to give you guys a brief preview of every single team playing in Serie A this season to help you know more Italian ball. And on the topic of balls, today's sponsor is Manscaped, the global brand for men's grooming and hygiene products. Fellas, the transfer window may be over, but there's no deadline day when it comes to Manscaped's all-in-one perfect package 4.0 that covers you from head to toe. And it all starts with the Lawnmower 4.0. It's cordless, waterproof, and with advanced skin-safe technology, the Lawnmower 4.0 has Paolo Maldini levels of protection, reducing nicks and cuts on the most sensitive regions of the body. The Perfect Package 4.0 also comes with these bad boys. Apply the Crop Preserver after your shower for all-day body odor protection, and with a little spritz of the Crop Reviver Ball Toner Spray, feel the cooling sensation of aloe vera to quickly refresh your balls whenever need be. Finally, there's the Magic Mat, which can either be a disposable shaving mat or a morning read. So go to manscaped.com today and use promo code Maqwell to get 20% off plus free international shipping and 2 free gifts. But this is a limited time offer, so don't wait. Use the promo code today, and a big thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. We take our journey first to the Piedmont region of northwest Italy. Juventus in 21-22 suffered a season as soulless as their club badge.
I hate this channel.
This was their first trophyless campaign in actually a decade. But this has been years in the making, with Juve being on a slow but very constant decline. And this all started back in 2018 when they bought Cristiano Ronaldo and didn't know how to manage him. And as a result of failing to build anything around one of the best players in the world, he left. And now Juventus have a massive hole up top with no particular direction for this club right now. The Bianconeri did bring back Massimiliano Allegri last season, but his second stint has provided negative and uninspiring tactics. Juventus scored just 57 goals in the league, 10th best. Quite literally mid. And that was after buying Dusan Vlahovic for 80 million. The Serbian striker scored 17 and 21 for Fiorentina before his January move, where he only scored 7, but he did exceed his XG of 5.9. Their one flame of creativity in Paulo Dybala is now gone. However, Juventus have done good business and brought in creative outlets Filip Kostic and Angel Di Maria. If Di Maria can stay fit, Juventus have also brought in the likes of winger Federico Chiesa permanently and Paul Pogba. However, those two look to be out for the rest of the year. On the other hand, with the defense, the old lady last season conceded just the 4th least amount of goals, but the departure of Matthijs de Ligt will hurt them quite a bit. Although, Juventus did bring in Serie A's best defender last season, Bremer. Now, this all being said, with quite a few positives here or there, Allegri is still the manager. After 2 battles for survival, Torino under the aggressive football of Ivan Juric had their best finish since 2019. And that's mainly thanks to the aforementioned Bremer. Torino last season had the 5th best defense, but as mentioned before, Bremer is now gone. New transfer Per Schurz has been looking pretty decent though. Although another huge loss was the long-awaited departure of Andrea Belotti. Just like Kalidou Koulibaly, he's been linked with so many clubs, but over the years has just never made a move. But for some reason, 2022 has just been different. But Belotti since 2015 scored 100 goals for I Granata. Torino did bring in some decent additions to make up for that. Attacking midfielders Alexei Miranchuk from Atalanta and Nikola Vlasic from West Ham, both on loan. And also watch out for 21-year-old defensive midfielder Samuele Ricci. He averages 2.4 interceptions per 90, ranking him top 10 amongst all the top midfielders in Europe. And also look out for any fights or scraps between the sporting director and the manager. Peak Serie A. Down southeast, about 123 kilometers away in the region of Liguria, is UC Sampdoria, located in Genoa. Sampdoria just missed out on relegation last season, and again, they will be fighting for their lives. Antonio Candreva, at 35 years old, was putting this team on his back with 10 assists last season, but he's now moved to Salernitana. Sampdoria also let go of Euro 2020 star Mikel Damsgaard, who in 11 appearances averaged the 3rd most key passes in the team, meaning the attack is going to be heavily reliant on striker Francesco Caputo, who had 11 goals last season. Potentially, we could see more of attacking midfielder Abdelhamid Sabiri too. And of course, you can never count out Fabio Quagliarella, who is now 39 by the way. One thing that held this team back last season was their defense, significantly. It was the 7th worst in the league, and they really haven't done anything to improve it. Sampdoria will need goalkeeper Emil Aldero in his best form if they don't want to resemble the Maginot Line. A little to the south in the same region is Spezia. Since promoting in 2020, Spezia have done a pretty good job at establishing themselves as a mainstay in Serie A. But they definitely did not help their chances with this window. Former captain Giulio Maggiore is now gone, along with one of Spezia's best performers last season, goalkeeper Ivan Provedel. Ray Minaj, who had 5 goals last season, is also nowhere to be seen. But the club have filled in at least some holes. Goalkeeper and career mode legend Bartolomiej Dragowski, and center backs Mattia Caldara and Ethan Ampadu on loan. One of the thirds is also seeing a new asset in attacking midfielder Daniel Maldini. The 20-year-old is yet to break out, but to be fair, he's been playing at Milan and not really getting many chances. So maybe this could be the year. The main star to look out for though is Emmanuel Giazzi. He scored 6 goals last season and has incredible technical ability. Spezia in the past seasons has been always favorites to relegate, but they somehow managed to defy all odds. This year is no different, but can they really achieve that 3 times in a row? Next we take a tour through all of Lombardy, starting with our reigning champions. Milan have been through hell and back since winning their 18th league title in 2011. Aging players, shady Chinese ownership, just terrible displays in general, the list goes on. But now the Rossoneri are on to bigger and better things under manager Stefano Pioli. Milan were tied for the best defense in the league last year. Mike Maignan was the goalkeeper of the year in Serie A with 17 clean sheets and a save percentage of 77.9%. And he was supported by the wall of Fikayo Tomori and Pierre Kalulu. Theo Hernandez, as I've said a million times, is a top 10 left back. He averaged the most key passes per 90 in the team. Not to mention, Milan have added more depth in the likes of Malik Diao and now Serginho Dest. Midfielder Franck Kessie left the club, but I don't really think that's much of a worry. Defensive midfielder Sandro Tonali has become phenomenal, and Ismail Benacer complements him well. And striker Olivier Giroud continues to prove that age is just a number on the pitch with 11 goals. There's also Ante Rebic, who started the season pretty well, and new transfer Divock Origi. Speaking of transfers, Milan brought in more creativity in the middle with the signing of Charles de Ketelaere. He had 14 goals, 6 assists, and expect him to play a pretty key role in this team. And of course, there's Serie A MVP Rafael Leao, who can carve through defenses with his exquisite technical ability. Whether or not the defenses are actually competent is for another discussion. He had 11 goals, 8 assists, and I also read this one article where they drew comparisons to Henry. And I can kind of see it in all honesty. Milan have a strong, young, and hungry team that will definitely be title contenders this year, but they need to stay consistent. Then there's their bitter rivals, Inter. The Nerazzurri under Simone Inzaghi would have actually won the league title had they not choked the entire month of February. But they come back stronger with the return of the Romelu Lukaku-Lautaro Martinez dangerous duo. In 2020-21, when Inter won the league title, the two combined for 41 goals out of Inter's 89. And considering Inter scored the most goals last season without this duo, they could catapult over their rivals. Now, if Lukaku struggles to stay healthy, they at least have a backup in Edin Dzeko, who's done a pretty decent job. I mean, he had a pretty solid season last year. And unlike 2020-21, there's even more creativity to support this striking duo. You have midfielders like Hakan Çalhanoğlu with his 12 goals, 7 assists, Nicolo Barella with 13 assists. New signing Henrik Mkhitaryan could provide some goals too with his 11 contributions. Even right back Denzel Dumfries could provide a hand or two. And speaking of fullbacks, Inter's defense was the 3rd best in the league, with them conceding just 1 less than Milan and Napoli. Led by Milan Skriniar, the defense needs to hold strong and also not concede dumb goals. Now, the goalkeeper situation is going to be interesting this season. With Samir Handanovic constantly declining, there is the emergence of potentially Andre Onana. Either way though, much like Milan, Inter are very strong contenders for the title. Up in the Alpine region of Lombardy, we have Bergamo, home of Atalanta. The team has seen one of the most fun to watch meteoric rises under the guidance of Gianpiero Gasperoni. Thanks to his attractive fluid attacking football and usage of Atalanta's youth, the club finished 3rd 3 consecutive times between 2019 and 2021. However, last campaign, the team fell down to a disappointing 8th place. There's plenty of questions to be asked, with holes to be filled and players fading in form. However, there have been some additions in the likes of winger Ademola Lookman and full of flair midfielder Edison. Striker Dusan Zapata was pretty disappointing considering his past season, so he'll hope to bounce back as well. There's also super sub striker Luis Muriel and another new signing in 19-year-old Rasmus Holland, who already has 1 goal. Watch out for Atalanta's youngsters as well. Last season, 21-year-old defender Caleb Boccoli helped Cremonese promote to Serie A. And there's also Giorgio Scalvini, an 18-year-old defender defender who actually got called up by the Italian senior squad. But the key player in this Atalanta side is defensive midfielder Toon Koopmeiners. With his incredible vision from deep, he had a breakout campaign and definitely expect more from him this year. Monza, located right outside Milan. It is home to the Monza circuit, known for its rich history in motorsport, hosting all kinds of forms of racing every year. However, the biggest of them all is the Italian Grand Prix, one of Italy's biggest events that has been hosted at the circuit since 1949. The track also one time virtually hosted a thing called Monza Madness on iRacing, where a famous NASCAR driver said the N-word, was fired, and then hired by a better team just a year later. I'm not making this shit up. But now Monza have a club in Serie A, which, if you didn't know, they tried to buy Zlatan in 2019. When they were in the 3rd division. Monza may have just promoted, but in no way lack ambition, as their president is Silvio Berlusconi and their CEO is Adriano Galliani. For context, these two men took Milan from bankruptcy to the absolute top of the world. Now, Monza, as I've already said about 1,400 different times, has promoted, but a completely different Monza side is actually playing in Serie A. After making 17 different signings, this squad is almost unrecognizable. That being said though, there are still some good players that they've bought. Gianluca Caprari from Verona, who had 12 goals and 7 assists last season. Midfielder Matteo Pessina, who was apparently one of the only good things that happened in Finalissima. There's also midfielder Stefano Sensi and his teammate Andrea Ranocchia. Monza added some youngsters too in Filippo Ranocchia and Nicolo Rovella. The problem though is with so many different signings and with the team looking completely different, there's a lot of gelling that has to be done in not a very good amount of time. And considering how well that went for Venezia, and it wasn't even to that extreme, it's probably not going to go well for Monza, especially since their managers' past Serie A stints were disaster classes at both Pescara and Crotone. Finally, right on the edge of the region, there's the city of Cremona, home to more than 70,000 residents and a rich heritage in violin making. The city now holds one of the 20 Serie A clubs as US Cremonese returns after 26 years. Much like Monza, this team has also revamped their squad quite a bit. Probably not to the extreme Monza has, but still not exactly the best decision. Now, if you don't really follow Serie A much, this happens every single year. There's such a massive gap between Serie A and Serie B that newly promoted teams have to find some way to survive, and it's very difficult. So oftentimes you'll see owners blowing all their cash and revamping the entire squad. Whether or not that actually works, usually about 90% of the time, it doesn't. But on the topic of Cremonese, they still have made some decent signings and more lower cost ones. There's defensive midfielder Charles Pico, goalkeeper Ionat Radu, and 19-year-old center forward Felix Afena-Gian from Roma.
Oh yeah, they also got Vlad Kirikes, and that's a lot of experience, a proven defender. Just wanted to add that one in there.
But the most important signing and player to watch this season is David Okereke. He featured in a struggling Venezia side that was also trying to gel and managed 7 goals. And with that kind of experience, Cremonese were geniuses to bring him in. But again, as I said before, this team is gonna have to gel, and it's gonna be a tough task in doing so. Next, we have the only Serie A club based in the Veneto region, Helas Verona. Verona finished 9th last season, scoring the 5th most goals. However, all 3 components of their main attack from last campaign are gone. Striker Giovanni Simeone to Napoli, attacking midfielder Antonin Barak is off to Fiorentina on loan, and as we've already mentioned before, Gianluca Caprari is at Monza. So going into the new season, Verona's men up top are Tomas Henry, their new signing, and Kevin Lasagna, who was one of the worst strikers I think it was maybe 2 years ago. Another departure was Nicolo Casale, and already Verona's defense were below average. Helas Verona could have honestly chased for Europe had they not been raided like a Minecraft village this window. There is still, though, midfielder Ivan Ilic, although he'll probably leave next summer. At the age of 21, he's a relatively reliable outlet and ball carrier that should break out this season. Manager Gabriele Cioffi has well-defined tactics for a mid-table side and has a bloodthirsty mentality. Literally. But I do think this will be a tough season for Verona. Once a city walled in, Udine now see their own football club being walled out by its owners, the Pozzo family. Despite being the highest profile club now that Watford was relegated, Udinese are still reduced to pretty much a scouting and selling side, with so-called success being yet another mid-table finish. It is the complete antithesis of what they used to be just 10 years ago. Now Molina is yet another talented prospect that has been sold, but Roberto Pereira has filled in that role quite well. Destiny Udoshi was also sold, but he's been loaned back for the season. Last year, the midfielder scored 5 goals and 4 4 assists, and he's looking even better this year. Udinese's top player last season was Gerard Deulofeu, who does stay this season, which is huge for Udinese supporters. The Spaniard scored 13 goals and assisted 5 last campaign. And one player I would keep my eye on is striker Beto. The Portuguese Sebastian Haller, as I like to call him, had 11 goals in his debut season. Next, we travel to the region of Emilia-Romagna, where you'll find Sassuolo. Sassuolo's strong attack led them to an 11th place finish last season. Right off the bat, we have to talk about a player that honestly I think should have been MVP, Domenico Berardi. 15 goals, 14 assists, the best average rating in Serie A. I honestly don't know how this man didn't win MVP. Oh wait, I do. He plays for Sassuolo. Gianluca Scamacca had 16 goals, was a phenomenal striker last season, but now he's off to West Ham. Giacomo Raspadori also had a 10+ goal season. He's gone as well. But Sassuolo are known for making names, and new striker 21-year-old Agustin Alvarez could be that this season or next. The young striker scored 24 goals in 64 Uruguayan league appearances. Another youngster that is really fun to watch is 22-year-old Ahmed Junior Traore. He's injured at the moment, but once he comes back, I'm really excited to see what he can do. Defensively, Sassuolo have lost some players as well, but so far, left-back Georgios Kriakopoulos has had some great performances. And of course, there's Andrea Cotsigli at 35 years old, who's a pretty decent keeper. 44 kilometers away, you'll find Bologna, who also finished mid-table. Marko Arnautovic came in last summer and has become a clinical goal scorer for them. 14 goals, and expect even better because he already has 5 in 5 this season. Attacking midfielder Musa Barros should provide even more goals. Over the last 3 seasons, he's provided 10+ goal contributions in each year. There's also Riccardo Orsolini, who could provide some assistance as well. However, Bologna have seen a lot of important players leave, like defender Arthur Tite, left-back Aaron Hickey, and Matthias Spenberg. To make things even worse, Bologna have had a severely underwhelming transfer window, and their squad is really slim. And with barely any defensive additions, Łukasz Skorupski is practically going to be fending for himself. Oh, and why don't you look at that? The manager's been sacked. Bologna's attack will no doubt keep this team alive, but it will be a frustrating season. Next we go down southwest to Florence, the birthplace of the Renaissance period. After selling Vlahovic, many thought Fiorentina's season was basically done and over with. But in the end, La Viola managed to finish 7th and claim a spot in the Conference League. It just goes to show that Vincenzo Italiano is one of the brightest and best Italian managers out there. Nico Gonzalez's goal scoring will be very important. He had 7 goals and 6 assists last season. Same with midfielder Giacomo Bonaventura, who had 4 goals and 5. And as we've mentioned before, Fiorentina also bring in Antonin Barak. The midfielder had 11 goals and 4 assists for Verona. Christian Kouame could also provide some goals for La Viola. He had 8 goals and 7 assists in the Belgian league last season. And although a deal with Lucas Torreira fell through, defensive midfielder Rolando Madrugora is still a good addition. Left-back Cristiano Biraghi had a solid season, and he'll now be joined with new signing right-back Dodo. And kind of like Inter, but instead of the goalkeeping position, it's the striking position, Fiorentina have some things to figure out. Because the man up top could either be January signing Arthur Cabral or new summer signing Luka Jovic. But with more depth overall, this could be a promising season. Empoli, after promoting 2 seasons ago, Empoli surprised many by not only staying up, but finishing 11 points clear of danger. Unfortunately though, after going 15 straight games winless, manager Aurelio Andreazzoli was sacked and replaced with Paolo Zanetti. Paolo Zanetti was originally Venezia's manager. Empoli have also lost their top scorer last season, Andrea Pinamonti, and center back Mattia Vitti. However, they did bring back their best player in goalkeeper Vicario. But aside from that, there really hasn't been much done in the transfer window, meaning this could be a difficult season for Empoli. But maybe 21-year-old left-back Fabiano Parisi has other things to say about that. He's looking pretty solid so far, as is 19-year-old midfielder Tommaso Badanzi. We are 15 clubs in, and only now we have reached southern Italy, where in the capital there are 2 teams who practically hate each other. Roma is the first, and under Jose Mourinho, who has seemingly regained his youth back, they finished 6th and also won the Conference League last season. Tammy Abraham is that guy. 17 goals, 4 assists last season. He's brilliant in the air, fantastic with his footwork, knows where the players are around him, just overall a fantastic number 9. Lorenzo Pellegrini is another player who will undoubtedly play a part in Roma's campaign. 9 goals, 5 assists last season, scored some absolute bangers, expect the same. And with all this comes a vintage Serie A signing. It feels like the 90s all of a sudden. Paulo Dybala is now a Roma player. The low gravity god with the signature curler provides a whole new dimension of attacking fluidity for Roma. Along with him come the likes of right back Zeki Celik, Andrea Pelotti, who can provide even more goals for this Roman side, the Jose Mourinho industry plant to replace Jordan Veretout, who was sold. Gini Wijnaldum was brought in too, and while his teammate got the street celebrating, he came out of a pool. Roma last season ranked 6th best in defense. Their best defender was 23-year-old Ibanez, who already looks even better this season. This is by far the strongest Roman side in quite some time. Champions League is the main target, but I wouldn't be shocked if there was a little Hail Mary for the title. Then there's Lazio, who finished 5th in Maurizio Sarri's first season. The Biancoceleste scored the second most goals in the league, a lot of them coming from top scorer of the league last season, Ciro Immobile. With his 27 goals, Immobile could always find a way to bring Lazio points. Sergej Milinkovic-Savic is somehow still in this Lazio team, and he is one of the best midfielders in the world. 11 goals, 11 assists, a fantastic outlet, just prime box to box. You can also see goals from Felipe Anderson, who had 6 goals and 8 assists, Pedro, who contributed 9 in his debut season, and also Luis Alberto, who had 15 goal contributions. The biggest problem for Lazio last season, which really held them back, was their mid-defense. But they've done a complete overhaul and have brought in the likes of Nicolo Casale and Alessio Romagnoli. And the best decision in this entire overhaul was bringing in a new keeper. Tomas Strakosha was pretty underwhelming, and Pepe Reina quite literally had the worst save percentage of the entire league. If you watched Lazio last season, you saw some beautiful build-up play from Sarri. Expect some of the same and maybe even more of it now that this is Sarri's second season. Napoli redeemed themselves, finishing 3rd in Serie A last season after choking on the final day the previous campaign. It comes at a cost though, as now Dries Mertens, Kalidou Koulibaly, and Lorenzo Insigne are all gone. However, new signing winger Khvicha Kvaratskhelia is on fire right now. The 21-year-old Georgian has 4 goals in 4 starts. And of course, you can never forget about the threats of Victor Osimhen. The striker's 14 goals were huge in Napoli's quest for Champions League last season. Piotr Zielinski could provide a goal here or there too, as well as the creativity of fullbacks Rui and Di Lorenzo. And just in case the final third isn't able to perform from time to time, there's still Giacomo Raspadori and Giovanni Simeone. Another huge loss though will be Fabian Ruiz, but Tanguy Ndombele might be able to fill in that role if he isn't lazy. And speaking of midfield, it was huge for Napoli to get Andre Zambo Anguissa on a permanent deal. Defense was the biggest concern. As I've mentioned, Kalidou Koulibaly is now gone, but King Kim has done a pretty good job so far. The team is performing well at the moment, but I don't know how long that'll last because their depth isn't exactly the best, especially in defense. Salernitana had one of the most incredible great escapes under Davide Nicola last season. They found themselves bottom with a 99% chance of relegation and somehow survived on the final day. Federico Bonazzoli was a huge part of that great escape, but I'm not too sure if he'll be the regular starter, because Salernitana managed to bring in Boulaye Dia, who made a name for himself in Liga. And although Antonio Candreva might be a bit old, he did really well for Sampdoria, and the same could be done here at Salernitana. Other signings include 2 new center backs in Matteo Lovato and 21-year-old Flavius Danilic. There's also a new left back in 22-year-old Domago Bradaric. Salernitana also managed to keep Emil Bowman, who provided a huge presence in the midfield. But the midfielder to look out, in my personal opinion, is 23-year-old Mamadou Koulibaly. He was solid during his loan spell and looks even better as a permanent signing. Salernitana are going for a good approach so far, maintaining those key players and building around them. I honestly think they have potential to survive again. Finally, we have one representative in the Apulia region. Lecce won Serie B last season with both the best attack and defense. However, they've lost a lot of players that were involved in that recent success. Top scorer Massimo Coda, keeper Gabriel, and left back Antonio Borreca. Lecce did, however, bring in some players with Serie A experience, including Falcone. I can't f***ing say. But much like many other Italian players, this man is currently in loan hell. The biggest signing though is one that you would have probably gone insane if you'd seen it 4 years ago. Samuel Umtiti is now a Lecce player. This man 4 years ago scored the winner against Belgium to send France to the World Cup final. But if he can find his way back into the team and stay healthy, Lecce have potentially an X factor in defense. How likely is that though? I don't know, maybe I'm getting my hopes up too much. But another man to watch out for is midfielder Morten Hjulmand. I'll be honest, I've only ever seen this guy play once, and it was against Inter, but he did look pretty good, and so far, he has the best average rating of any other player on that team. And there you are. Now you know Italian ball. But what do you guys think? Who will win the league? Who will be relegated? Who will have the stagnation of 10th place. You know what's gonna happen, it's patrons time. A special thanks to all of them, including Janos Balash, Sensley Hank Dennis, Elfavi, Miliaway009, Alex Rod, Ulta, Amin Suarmez, Arnulfo Martinez Jr., Daniel Ortiz, Darkwolf476, Francisco Hernandez, Jax206, Juan Leras, Mika Deichmeister, Nguyen Mintang, Parafocus, Rory Byrne, The Motor Drive, Tomicus, Trevor Batson, Triple GK, Vanilla Mexican 17, Victor, Carlo SG, Chris Damasceno, Declan Malloy, Dominic Griffin, Emmett Shea, Lewis, Jordan Clave, Mohammed Albok-Hale, MX Wee, Patrick Barley, President Pulisic, Tom Little, and Unbroken Persona. If you'd like to join the Patreon, there'll be a link down below and up in the annotations. You can follow my Twitter if you'd like, follow my Instagram if you want, follow my TikTok, trying to get to 15,000 there, and of course you can follow my semi-active Twitch. But until then, I'll see you guys.